Good morning and welcome to the Peace River, Minnesota Regional Water Supply Authority Board of Directors meeting of September 30th, 2020. Let the record show all commissioners are present. If you wish to join in, please rise for the invocation delivered this morning by Commissioner Elton Langford, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful day, Lord. We just ask for wisdom and knowledge for this board to be able to conduct the business of this authority to best suit the people that we serve. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for that. Lord, we just lift up our men and women in the armed services and our first responders that protect and serve us. Lord, we just pray that you keep your hand of protection upon them. And Lord, we just lift up everything that's going on in this world to you, Lord. And you know what's best, Lord, and we're just counting on you to send us in the right direction to do the right things. And we just ask all these things now in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please join the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I guess what we'll do, a little disconnected here from our normal setup, but we do have some guests in the audience. What we normally do is just have you stand up and state your name and what organization you're affiliated with. You're going to have to project a little bit this morning because we don't have a sound system. We can start right here to my right.
Chris Kusler, Ardura Group. Pete Larkin with ASRUS.
Mark Jones with Reese Engineering.
Mark Kelly with Garney Construction.
Doug Ekman with Kimley Horn.
Mike McGee, Black Beach.
Ron Cavallari with AECom.
Good morning, Katie Duty with HDR.
Good morning.
Good morning, Craig Wiles with Reese and Nichols.
Good morning, I'm Tim Ritchie with March Against USA. I'm Bob Worth with Environmental Science Associates.
Good morning, Tom Brzezinski from Waitrose.
Good morning, Heather Riley with Kimley Horn.
Cushing, Corollo Engineers.
Thank you.
Tim Kern with AECom.
Good morning, David Cash, Sarasota County. Good morning, Bert Warner with Sarasota County Utilities.
Dave Watson, Charlotte County Utilities.
Joseph Jones, Sarasota County.
Michael Zarzano, Florida County Congress.
Cynthia Compton, Florida County Congress.
Katie Gilmore, Manatee County.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining with us this morning. Right now, I'd like to introduce Sherry Courier, a Manatee County Administrator. Some opening remarks. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We're really pleased to have you here today in our remote Board of County Commission chambers that we've been meeting at for the last probably 4 months now, and we're really thrilled that we're able to accommodate this large crowd safely, and we're also really thrilled to have the public here. Just a few logistics of the building. This is our Bradenton Area Convention Center. You're actually in Palmetto, Florida, but it is operated by Manatee County and owned. And we are soon about ready to open it back up for public events. We've been meeting here safely for at least since the early part of June. Commissioner Trace has been part of all of our meetings. We're thrilled that everyone can be here in person. It's worked for us. We have great partnership with our Manatee Educational TV that is here today and helping to also broadcast. And also, we are able to bring in all of the staff. We have 2 overflow rooms here for additional public, and it's served us well. And we also have been able to have our land use meetings and our planning commission and other individuals that want to have open meetings. And so it's a great regional site. If any of you have the need to have a very large meeting, all you have to do is let us know and see if it's available. We're thrilled to have you here. Thank you for allowing me to welcome you, and I hope you have a great meeting. We're really working hard. We have our great staff here, Mark Simpson and Katie Gilmore with our utilities department, And so with that, if you have any questions about anything we're working on, we've adopted our budget for the next year. And of course, we're just one day away from it beginning. And I'd like to also thank all of you for the great collaboration with your county administrators, your deputies, and your staff throughout the last several months. We speak on a regular basis. We keep each other informed. We plan. We take ideas from each other. We bounce off the bad ones, and we accept the good ones and try to keep in sync. And so it's been a great partnership. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherry. And
Thank you.
you echoed what, we were talking about that earlier, Commissioners, how the great cooperation, collaboration amongst all our administrators in the region during this crisis. It's really a wonderful thing, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Have a great meeting.
Thank you very much. Okay, public comments. Anyone wishing to address the board during this portion of the meeting must fill out a speaker's card. Rachel has those if you haven't filled one out yet. I have several. You'll be given 3 minutes. At 30 seconds, she's going to warn me, and I'll let you know that you've got 30 seconds left, and we'll stop promptly at 3 minutes. Okay? First individual, Michael Zarzano. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Board. Today I would like to show you the big picture. This is the big picture about what you're seeking to preserve and protect. This is an aerial photograph of the Peace River in the Horse Creek. It has become the drainage ditch where Mosaic flushes their corporate chemical toilet. The God you prayed to in the beginning of this meeting does not like us polluting his creation. Has it ever occurred to you that you might be facilitating the destruction of God's creation? This is the big picture that you need to grasp. I suggest you go on YouTube and spend a little time examining from the aerial view what Mosaic is doing to the inner state of Florida. You say you're out to protect the water, the soil, the conservation, but it's not being done. Radioactive material is being flushed down the Peace River toilet because you are not providing oversight for we the people. And let me tell you, the farmers and the people that live in this area are sick of it. They're afraid to speak out, though, because of the billions that Mosaic has in their arsenal. But I tell you what, I've traveled to many counties and talked to many people. They are sick of what Mosaic is doing. How dare you allow this to happen? You are creating a cesspool toilet in the most pristine areas of Florida. A corporation that is exporting their materials, their product, so that we can live in a destroyed, destructed Florida. Could it be they're sending some of this fertilizer raw material to the communist Chinese? Could you have blood on your hands, people?
30 seconds, sir.
Blood on your hands, facilitating an American corporation providing fertilizer to the bloody Chinese communists, the butchers of Beijing. Shortly thereafter, we granted them most favored trade status. You got blood on your hands, people. Think about it. Mosaic is polluting the state of Florida in the most grotesque manner.
Mrs. Zarzano, your time is up, sir. Thank you very much.
Wake up.
Next, we have Tim Ritchie. Again, 3 minutes, sir. Mr. Ritchie. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Doherty, and everybody else in the room, all the commissioners. My name is Tim Ritchie, and I live in Punta Gorda Isles, and I am the founder of March Against Mosaic. And thank you very much, Mr. Zarzano. We need more citizens at these meetings. Matter of fact, Mr. Zarzano and Ms. Compton and I were all with you in January 2020. Remember, up off Kings Highway? This is the April 28th, 2020 intent to issue. I'm tired of all of you being dishonest. I want you from this day forward to start talking about this as permit renewal and modification, sir. I remember you being up there on Monday with me, September 30th, 2019, with Vish and John. I just went through a 4-month administrative hearing, which most of you know, case number 202596. I contacted you, Doug. I never got a call back. I believe that's your card. When I started to print the 755 pages, and I hope everybody read them all, because if you didn't, get in there. And I'm looking what's printed, Commissioner from Sarasota. And this shit, excuse my language, Mosaic Fertilizer Bartow leak, the Mosaic renewal for the NPDES permit. Administrative Law Judge Francine Folks, if you're watching me, you ought to retire today. I wasn't allowed to question Jock O'Rourke or any of the Mosaic employees or any of the employees from Peace River, Manasota Water Board Authority. My commissioners were all blocked. And I am upset. Are you listening, Jeffrey Brown?
Mr. Ritchie, you have 30 seconds, sir.
Last thing he asked me at my deposition was Super Attorney Perko, what are you, Mr. Ritchie? I'm an American patriot. Citizen Waters are. My family's in Arlington. My family came over from Scotland in this land years ago. You are destroying the water. Do your damn jobs. I'm
Mr.
so
Ritchie,
upset.
Mr. Ritchie.
I'm Republican.
Mr.
I'm going to vote
Mr.
for the
Ritchie.
Democrats.
Mr. Ritchie, your time is over, sir.
Commissioner Doherty, thank you kindly as always.
Next, we have Cynthia Compton. That's the last card I have. Anyone else who would like to speak, please fill out a card. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for this time, Commissioners. I am not as well-spoken as these two guys. I'm a simple girl, but I do know a few things. Our water is in serious trouble. I see all you people around with masks, afraid of COVID. You should be more afraid of your water. I live in Charlotte County. I can smell the chemicals when I turn on my faucet. I spend so much money on my water bill each month, and then I have to go to Sam's Club to buy water to drink and make my coffee and tea. That's not right. I should be able to turn on my faucet and use the water. I have to pray to God every time I take a shower, because when I wash my face and I know how the body works. We have open pores, and this water that you guys are supposed to be treating and protecting us is going into the pores. It's going in my eyes. And who knows what it's doing. I see the people, and all this information is available to you guys, and I don't understand how me, a simple girl, high school educated, didn't even go to college, but I can see what it's doing to the people of Pine Level, the people at Horse Creek. They've had to move their farms. They've had to move their livestock away because of the damage it was doing to their horses and their cattle and their chickens. I don't understand why this doesn't affect you people. I don't understand it. It breaks my heart every time I see these people crying out for help, and you guys sit here with your fancy masks on. You guys don't all have them on because you're 6 feet away. Oh, there's one. How can you guys pick and choose the way you do? I am so grateful Mr. Doherty is one of my commissioners. And Charlotte County, they're trying hard. Because you know what? All of this trash is about ready to flow into Charlotte Harbor and into the Gulf of Mexico. As if our water's not enough of a mess. We're facing phosphates from DeSoto County and from, pray to God that is stopped before it happens again.
Ms. Compton, you got 30 seconds.
Y'all need to stop Mosaic. This is dangerous. God gave us such a beautiful state with the finest water in the world, and y'all are letting them do this to it. It's not too late to wash those hands that have blood.
Thank you very much. Rachel, no additional cards. Okay. Commissioners will now move to the agenda. First thing is a resolution presentation, a remembrance of the Honorable Patricia Glass. Mr. Lehman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good morning.
Good morning.
We sit here today enjoying a regional system that feeds a safe, reliable, and sustainable water supply for 500,000 residents within the 4 counties. We sit here because of a lot of work from past commissioners that served on this board. And I want to recognize one today in the remembrance of the Honorable Pat Glass from Manatee County, who recently passed away. She served a long career in public service. She was Manatee County Commissioner from 1978 to 2006. She served on this board for 14 years, from 1992, when the facility was first acquired, through 2006. Following her stint with us, she went on and served on the Swift Governing Board, representing the 16 counties for 3 years after that. I want to recognize her especially for a 14-year tenure on our board. As I said, I had the privilege of coming to work at the same time that she came on to the board. Mr. Manson had the privilege of actually being hired by her, so he served under her tenure. I can tell you that it was a privilege working with her and her statesmanship, her tact, that got us to where we are today. She served her probably the greatest thing among many. She served as the chairman that shepherded the Second Amendment to the interlocal agreement through 4-county approval. She shepherded the Water Master Supply contract through with the 4 counties in Northport, which stand today as our guiding documents that govern in this board. So Mike, if you want to flip up the picture that we always hold near and dear to our heart. That you'll recognize many people in that slide. She was the one in the middle, and it was 2 years of gnashing a lot of teeth and getting a lot of meetings. I think somebody told me once there were 35 different meetings, but she shepherded it through. And I think one of her famous statements that Doug will always remember, along with me, is that somebody would ask a question. Her response was always, "Is it a deal breaker?" And if the answer was yes, we'll put it over here to discuss. If the answer was no, move on. And she got the job done, and we stand here today because of our forerunners such as Ms. Glass and others that you see there in the picture today too. So certainly she rests in the hand of God. We thank her family for sharing her with us when she was on earth, and we keep her in our prayers. And I'll let Doug go ahead and say something too, since he served with her.
I was just going to say that, Pat Glass was not just a commissioner, but also a friend of ours as well. And I was started with the authority. I remember she looked out in the audience, and I think at the point I was in my mid-40s, and she said, why about that nice young man, Doug Manson? Why don't we have him apply? That's the only person who's called me a young man at that point in my life. But she was kind in everything she did, and I always loved the fact that she was calm in the midst of conflict. And at that point, when we were in effect transforming the authority, there was a lot of conflict. And she used her wisdom and a joyful kind of positive nature that she had, her attitude, to be able to shepherd us through that, being able to get through contentious times without hard feelings and making sure that people felt heard on essential issues, but as you said, Pat, not wasting any time on issues that weren't essential. I learned a lot from her, and I felt she was a mentor and that she was essential for the authority, but also she contributed to me and made me a better person, and I'll always remember for that. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, I really, I think I met her a couple of times, but didn't really know her. And, but she's, within the region, very highly respected individual. So, but thank you for your comments. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, Commissioners, we're coming to the consent agenda. I'm going to pull item 7 just to clarify something. Is there anything else that needs to be pulled? Commissioner Trace?
No.
Commissioner Mayo?
No.
Commissioner Langford?
No, sir.
Entertain a motion to approve the balance.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion second to approve the balance of the consent agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. I pulled 7. And I'll have no issues really with it. It was just an item that came up at our board meeting last week. The hydrobiological monitoring program. Again, it's all related to the water quality testing and so forth that's done. I'll do my best. Mike's going to help me if I get off target here a little bit. But this is a program, a monitoring program that's been going on since the beginning, for probably 40 years or more. And it's for the public's benefit to understand. It's primarily to make sure that, and I'm just simplifying as best I can, making sure our withdrawals from the river do not adversely impact the lower Peace River in Charlotte Harbor relative to the biology. And I think that's essentially, Mike's nodding his head, that's all this is. Folks, I think some folks have misunderstood that this is water quality testing upstream, possibly up the river, but it's not. And it's related entirely to how much water we're withdrawing. It's a requirement of the Swift Mud permit, I believe.
Correct.
Mr. Lehman? Yeah. And so, I just wanted to clarify that so people understand that it's it's a program that's been going on for over 40 years, and it's not relative to the testing and concerns to the north that people have brought up. So, Chair will entertain a motion to approve item 7.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll take one as a motion and one as a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Okay. We'll now go to the regular agenda. Water supply conditions. Mr. Anderson.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Richard Anderson of the authority staff. Let me get my bearings here. There we go. Item 1, as usual, is the water supply conditions update. This is an information item only. As usual, we'll cover the water supply conditions for September for the Peace River facility and the basin, and then we'll take a look at the water usage for the month of August. So, as usual, rainfall. We'll take a look at rainfall. Through the 15th of the month of September, we had about 3.5 inches of rain, and then going towards the end of the month, actually through Monday, we've had 7.2, so pretty steady rainfall for the last 3 months. We've had about 7.1, 7.9, then 7.2 for the month, so somewhere between 7 and 8 inches for the last 3 months. So good steady rainfall, and you'll see that reflects in the river flow here in just a minute. As I said, the river flow for the month, if you remember last month, I said we hadn't had that big pop yet in the river. Well, we finally got it. We're up to about 4,200 CFS in the river. as of the 15th, and as of this morning, we're about the same spot, about 4,350 CFS. So got excellent flow in the river and excellent water quality. Regarding our withdrawals, as you can see, going back to July, we were filling the reservoir. We took out about 69 MGD for the month, maintained about 45 MGD in August, and now in September, averaging about 26, 27 MGD. So we're basically full, the system's full, and we're in maintenance mode, keeping everything topped off and full. And this graph represents that condition. As you can see, the blue line is our permitted level, our full level there at 6.5 MGD. We're just a shy bit under that. We're at 6.43 MGD as of this morning, and completely full in the system. Regarding ASR, as I mentioned last month, we took out about 500 million gallons in the spring because of the dry conditions. We started the wet season at about 8.1 billion. We're filling that back up at about a rate of 10 MGD. We're currently at about 8.35, and we're hoping to get at least another 500 million put back in that system before the river flows decline. Taking a look at the days of supply, as you can see here, the light blue represents our average day flow of 27.5 MGD. Delivered at that rate, we have 413 days, or about 14 months of water supply storage in the system. If we were to deliver to you your contractual obligations of 34.7, that brings us to about 327 days, or about 11 months of storage in the system. Now we'll shift over to the water production side for August. Regionally, the authority delivered about 27.4 MGD, and your county and city facilities delivered right under 44 MGD for a total of about 71.3. As usual, about 3.5 MGD of that went from Manatee County to their consecutive customers. So the authority customer and member usage was just under 68 MGD, 67.9. for the month. Charlotte County used just 10.2, just under 10.25 MGD, which is 63% of their allocation. They self-supplied about 0.4 MGD for a total of 10.6 for the month. And as you can see, the red bar, this is our 12-month running average. It's still jumped up there quite a bit for the 12 months. As you can see, they've averaged 11.56 for the previous 12 months. DeSoto County used 0.44 from the authority and self-supplied 0.34 for a total of just under 0.8 MGD, or 55% of their allocations. And as you can see, they're still maintaining a little bit below where they were last year at 0.86 MGD for the 12 months previous. I'm sorry, I thought we missed a slide there. Sorry about that. Manatee County, there we go. Manatee County produced 34.2 for their customers, or 66% of their capacity. They also supplied about 4 MGD to Sarasota County, and again, the 3.5 MGD to their consecutive customers, for a total production of 41.6 MGD, or 80% of your permitted capacity. As you can see by the red bar here, quite a big jump of about 3.5 MGD for the previous 12 months compared to the 2019 water year. I do expect, as I said before, that to come down a little bit when we average the September numbers, but still quite a big jump for the past 12 months. And Sarasota County, Sarasota used 14.8 from the authority, or 98% of your allocation. Again, they bought 4 MGD from Manatee County, self-supplied about a half an MGD for a total of 19.3 for the month, or 57% of their allocation. And again, the red bar, the 12-month running average, is about a half an MGD higher than the previous fiscal year. And finally, Northport. Northport used just under 2 MGD from the authority, self-supplied 1.1 for a total of just over 3 MGD, or right at 50% of their permitted capacity. And as I rolled all the numbers up for the region, as you can see, the previous 12 months are running at 76.2 MGD, which is about 4.3 MGD higher than fiscal year 2019. So again, quite a big jump in water usage for the previous 12 months. Looking at available quantities, as usual, we use 71.4 for the month, leaving 33 MGD available. So still using about 2/3 of our capacity, right at 68% for the month of August. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions? Mr. Anderson? Looks like we're all set, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item. Southwest Florida Water Management District Fiscal Year 2022 Cooperative Funding Initiative Applications. Mr. Lehman, you want to introduce, or somebody introduce that?
Mr. Coates will be handling that. Thank you.
Mike?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members. It's that time of the year again. Every year we talk about these co-funding applications about this time. The co-funding applications are for the fiscal 2022 funding period, and they are due on Friday of this week. So we're just in time. This year we have 5 projects to submit to the Water Management District, and they're shown on the table on the left-hand side of that slide. The projects include 3 projects that we submitted last year, submitted for fiscal 2021 co-funding, and those have all been approved for co-funding. And they include the feasibility and siting study for the reservoir and the feasibility and siting studies for the 2 pipelines. So you will see those co-funding agreements coming through in December for those projects. We also have 2 new projects that we'll be talking about. One is continues on where the feasibility and siting study for the reservoir leaves off. And then the other one is the regional acquisition of a pumping station in DeSoto County. And we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. I wanted to walk through the important milestones that the Water Management District has established for these applications. October 2nd, 2020 is when the co-funding applications are due. They don't accept any co-funding applications for fiscal 2022 after that date. So if we want to get something in, we have to get it in then. Whether we've made a final decision on funding for it or not, it's got to go in then if we want the district to consider it. In April, the Water Management District staff ranks the co-funding projects. And typically our projects rank very high. We are a regional water supply authority. They give preference to those kind of projects. At that point, though, we will need to know how a couple of these projects are going to be funded, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. In June, the SWIFMUD board approves the co-funding projects, and then in September, they adopt their budget, which includes those co-funding projects. So those are really what drives the schedule. First project that I want to talk about here is our Reservoir Number 3 siting and feasibility study. This is a project that we submitted last year to SWIFMUD for the fiscal 2021 co-funding. They have approved that co-funding for it. It's approximately a $1.5 million project funded by authority planning assessment funds. You can see on the table how those funds are allocated. In fiscal 2020, we allocated money, $250,000, that was not matched by the Water Management District because we didn't have a funding application in then. But in 2021 and 2022, the district has agreed to match our costs in there to the tune of about $625,000. So we are submitting that again this year because we're going to be using some of the district's funds in fiscal 2022. The next project also relates to the regional reservoir number 3, and this is the preliminary engineering for that project. It's the next step after the siting and feasibility study. We're looking at about a $7.25 million project that will span about 24 months in time. It would start in January of 2022 and be completed late calendar year 2023. In the table, you can see the expected expenditures for 2022, 2023, and 2024. Authority exposure is somewhere around between $1 million and $1.3 million per year during that time. The funding, of course, would have to come into our 2022 budget. And so we will have to decide on how that gets paid. But at this point, if we want to move forward with the preliminary design, we've got to have this project into the district. If we decide at a future date that we don't want to fund it, then it just comes off the table. Next project is the Regional Integrated Loop System Phase 3C Interconnect. This is the routing and feasibility study that would carry our existing system up to connect with Manatee County's system. In the consent agenda, you approved a consultant for that. And our charge now is to go and negotiate a contract and a scope and a fee with them to bring back to the board in December. This is about an 18-month project. We expect it to cost about $600,000, and the Water Management District has approved paying half of that, so $300,000 of that project. The remaining funds come from the authority's planning assessment on this project. Similar to the last project, this is the Southern Regional Loop, segments 2B and 2C. Again, a routing study. This project would look at connecting the authority's existing regional system there in central Charlotte County and going up to the Carlton plant. Huh? Thought it did. Oh, there it is. Okay. Again, this project is one that you approved a consultant for today, and we will again go and negotiate a contract scope and fee with that consultant and bring that back to the board in December. We envision this as a $400,000 project, and the Water Management District has approved $200,000 in funding for that. And the funds from the authority are coming from the planning assessment. Finally, we have another new project. This is the acquisition of the Project Prairie Pump Station. And if you recall, we've been talking about this since January of 2020. We had planned to roll that acquisition into the Phase 1 interconnect project, the pipeline project. We've got extra money that's going to be left over. We thought this, the location and the regional acquisition of that project was was a logical extension of that. And so we pitched that to the Water Management District. At their governing board in August, the governing board said, we like the project, but we really don't like changing existing agreements, funding agreements. And we would like you to go ahead and pull it out and send it in for fiscal 2022 funding. And so that is what this project is about. Now, the Project Prairie Pump Station is situated very strategically in our system. It's on the east side of the system. It's where two major pipelines come together. We have other supplies that we plan to develop out there in DeSoto County and Charlotte County. And so this pipeline, or this pump station, would work very well moving water in the regional system north and south in the future to help us with those operations. As it sits today, though, it can only move water to the DeSoto County system from the regional system. So we deliver water at that location. It's pumped into DeSoto County system. That's the way it's configured. So this project really has two components. The first is the purchase of the pump station from DeSoto County, and that's about $750,000. That purchase price is based on a condition assessment that one of our consultants did, and we believe that to be a fair price. The other component is to put in the plumbing and the metering necessary to make this a regional pump station, to be able to move water north and south in those big transmission lines, to add chemicals to the water when we need to there. And so that is the other part of it, and that's about $526,000 cost. And so in total, we're looking at the cost of this project at about $1.275 million, and we would be requesting 50% co-funding from the Water Management District to do that. Again, we would have to find a way to incorporate this project in our fiscal 2022 budget. Personally, I think it fits very well in the system-wide benefit CIP, but that will be something we'll have to decide as we move forward. So with that, those are the 5 projects that we intend to submit. And we have a motion to go ahead and authorize us to submit those projects and to rank the projects as they're shown in your board book, because the district requires a project ranking. With that, Mr. Chair, that's all I have. If you've got any questions on these projects, I'd be happy to answer them.
Commissioners, any comments or questions? Mr. Coates. Okay, well, I need a motion to authorize the submittal of the fiscal year 2022 Cooperative Funding Initiative applications to SwiftMud for the 5 regional projects and approve the recommended project cooperative funding ranking.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Hearing none, passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, item 3, Bond Series 2010A, 2010B, and 2014A refunding. Ms. Ann, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Ann Lee of the authority staff. At the August 5th board meeting, we presented on and received direction from you regarding several refunding efforts that were projected to have considerable savings for the authority and its customers. At this time, I'm very pleased to introduce the authority's financial advisor, Alex Bugallo, and the authority's bond counsel, Tom Giblin, who will be presenting on the culmination of these efforts, as well as obtaining board approval to proceed with the transaction.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners and members of the board. For the record, this is Alex Bugallo with Hilltop Securities, financial advisors to the authority. Before I begin my presentation, I have some good news to share with all of you. The authority actually is part of the bond financing. The authority staff, as well as obviously myself and the senior managers, presented to the rating agencies last week the creditworthiness of the authority. And as part of that process, we received the ratings pretty much yesterday, starting late afternoon. Two of the ratings, Moody's and Fitch, were confirmed, meaning that they maintained the same ratings that they had. And typically, we wouldn't get that excited about that, but in this market environment, that is a very strong telling on the views of the creditworthiness of the authority. But most importantly, we also received a credit rating upgrade from Standard & Poor's, which means that now Standard & Poor's rates the bonds of the authority on parity with Fitch at AA, straight AA, which is a very, very strong rating. And again, it's a testament to this board and to the work that staff does in managing the operations of the system, as well as a testament to the creditworthiness of the customers who pay the bills, so your respective utilities. So congratulations to all of you. I wanted to go ahead and start the presentation with obviously what Ann just mentioned before. On August 5th, we came in front of you to request the authority to proceed with the refunding of 3 individual series of bonds of the authority, the 2010As, the 2010Bs, and a bank loan, which is the 2014As. All 3 of these loans have rates that are above market, which are obviously candidates for refunding for economic savings. They're all currently callable, meaning that there is not going to be any type of escrows. They're going to be as soon as we price the Series 2020 bonds and close later in October, these bonds will be defeased at the same time. This is part of the presentation that we provided to staff members and customers of the board and of the authority on September 2nd. And it kind of gives you a breakdown of the debt service allocated for each one of the series that we're looking to refund here on a per customer basis. What I want to point out is that the allocation really is not going to change for the 2010As and the 2014As. It is going to change for the 2010Bs, and I'll explain that here shortly. To give you an idea on where savings levels are today based on market conditions as of the end of business on the 24th, so late last week, obviously we're looking to set interest rates next week when we price. We're looking to price the bonds on either Tuesday or Wednesday. But as of last Thursday, you had very strong savings on all 3 of these series. You had over $12.8 million in present value savings, over $24 million in gross savings. Present value is just an indication of today's dollars, obviously bring forward. Again, these are very, very strong savings that result in significant annual gross savings for the authority and the customers as well. I want to give you a brief synopsis as to each one of the refundings. The first component is the 2010As. And if we look at the 2010As, obviously the majority of it is being bared by Sarasota County and a portion to Northport, as well to a very small portion to DeSoto County. But obviously the first table to your left shows what the current debt service allocation is per customer and what the current debt service is prior to the refunding. The second table in the middle shows you what the actual refunding numbers would look like based on interest rates as of last week. And then the third shows you what the savings are for that particular series of bonds. And it's obviously allocated on the same percentage basis as it currently is. So there are some significant savings associated with the 2010As. The 2010Bs, which I will move forward here, and this is the one that the allocation percentage is going to change slightly. And the reason being is that we have approximately a little bit over $3 million that's being contributed from project savings associated from the 2010Bs from the city of Northport. So they're basically buying down their share of the responsibility of the debt associated with the 2010Bs by a little bit over $3 million. And 100% of that is going to be allocated for the benefit of Northport. There's also about $1.8 million that's being contributed by Sarasota County to buy down their share of the debt service. So obviously, that's going to contribute to their portion as well. The percentage basis, the original percentage basis of 64.29 to Sarasota County and 35.71 to the city of Northport is going to change slightly, and this is the only one that it does change out of the 3 series of bonds, and obviously that's as a result of the buy-downs. Obviously, the city of Northport's contribution or responsibility of the debt service goes down a little bit more because the $3 million contribution is larger than the county's. But in all, obviously, it's going towards buying down, issuing less bonds for these refunding purposes. So it's creating additional debt service savings. And here in 2010B, we show on a table graph basically what that allocation it is. And again, it's presented in the same format. Table to the left shows you what the current debt service is and what the allocation per customer is. The table in the middle shows you what the preliminary numbers based as of interest rates as of last week are on a per customer basis. And the table to the right shows you a breakdown of the savings and how those savings will be allocated based on the percentage that I just discussed. The 2014As, again, this is a bank loan that was issued by the authority, and it was originally issued for Pinnacle Bank, was the purchaser of that bank loan. It's currently in the hands of Bank of America. That loan obviously also makes sense to refinance at this point, given today's interest rates. And we show a similar analysis here, so what the savings are on a per customer basis with the same format, with the table to the left, the middle, and the right showing the savings and how those savings are allocated on a per customer basis. The aggregate table that we're showing here is to give you an indication of what the present value savings, so those are the savings in today's dollars from executing this refunding, again, based on preliminary rates as of last week. And obviously, we see that we have present value savings a little bit over $12.8 million. We break it down per series and per customer to give you an idea how much your portion of the savings are for your respective utilities and debt service. So in aggregate, it's obviously a little bit over 12.8. You're looking at Sarasota County benefiting a little bit over 9.3 million on a PV basis, and City of Northport over 3 million. And by the way, these savings are net of any contributions. So it's not taking into account the fact that Sarasota County is contributing 1.8 million to downsize their share, and that Northport is contributing over 3 million. These are irrespective of those contributions. So again, significant savings, and certainly we look forward to a successful pricing next week to try to maximize the savings that we can attain. To give you an idea, again, on schedule, we're going to be requesting board approval here shortly for the documents to be able to give us the authority to print what we call the preliminary official statement, which is an offering document that gets sent out to investors. We're looking to price the bonds next week, where we will decide later this week whether that's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. And we are looking to pre-close the bonds, which means sign the documents on October 20th, and then wire the funds 2 days later on the 22nd, at which point the old refunded bonds will be defeased and the new bonds will take over. So with that, I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Commissioner Mann.
Alec, thank you very much for the speed and that you did this. So we can be assured that these bonds will be closed and signed about a month before the election. So we're going to be getting the best advantage of the best interest rates in a very long time. Is that accurate?
We sure hope so, Commissioner. Obviously, we never want to put all our eggs in one basket. We're pricing the bonds next week. The market has been fairly stable for the last month or so. We would not anticipate any issues at this point with pricing the bonds and setting the interest rates and closing and pricing those bonds, you're right, about a month before the elections, which was our original intent.
Perfect. And just to summarize it, all the jurisdictions will benefit, but roughly, and I know you give us the exact numbers, there's going to be about a $25 million savings, 5 to 6 million of that in what I would call, a layperson would call prepaids, and then the rest of the savings coming from an actual reduction in our interest payments. Is that fairly accurate?
Yes, on a PV basis, the 12.8 million does not take into account the contributions. The gross savings does take into account the contributions, so that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners, any other comments, questions? Mr. Giblin?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tom Giblin with Neighbors Giblin and Nickerson. We serve as bond counsel to the authority. You have before you Resolution 2020-06. That's the resolution which will authorize the issuance of the refinancing debt. The relevant parts of the resolution, we lay out the parameters. Parameters of the bonds that have to be met before the transaction can go forward are not to exceed $60 million of debt. Can't go beyond that. The second is that we have a TIC parameter, which is true interest cost, which takes into account cost of issuance, cannot exceed 3.50. Expectation will be substantially lower than that. The next parameter is underwriter's discount. This is what the underwriters get paid for selling the bonds. That cannot exceed 0.35%. We also have a parameter in terms of what your level of savings is going to be. And you have to have at least 5% present value savings. Right now, as Alex had mentioned, we're looking at substantially more than that. Final parameter is the final maturity date of the refinancing bonds has to be no later than 10/1/2040. That's in keeping with what the bonds are right now. So we're not extending the maturity of the bonds. They stay the same. We've also have attached to the resolution various documents. That includes the preliminary official statement, which is your disclosure document. This is what you give bondholders to take a look in terms of where the authority is and provides financial information to the bondholders in terms of who the authority is and what their security is all about. We also have attached to it the form of the purchase contract, and that's the contract that you have with your underwriting team. Your underwriting team is led by Raymond James. It also has in it PNC Bank and UMB. So you have 3 underwriters that will be selling your bonds next week. If the parameters are met, we've authorized under the resolution for the executive director to go ahead and sign that purchase contract. That lays out all the particulars in terms of what's needed at the closing. Closing will occur, I believe it's October 22nd. We will ask the chair and Pat and other folks in this room that need to sign documents. We'll work with them to make sure that we do this on a timely basis and do it without a lot of disruption. This is the only action you need to take, or your last action that you need to take, to get the transaction done. Once the resolution is adopted, we're good to go.
Very good, sir. Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for all your great work. And after a motion gets made, I've got a lot of people I want to thank. But just for the record, we're repeating what you just said. Please bear with me. The bonds still will be done at the same point they would have been done. So we're not extending that in another 20 years. And that's the same place they would have ended.
That is correct. We're not extending any maturities at all. We're keeping that framework in place.
So when we quote these savings, that's about as pure as they can be quoted.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Very good. Well, Commissioners, I need a motion to approve Resolution 2020-06 as described by staff in the agenda package.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'll make that motion, and if we get a second, there's a whole lot of people that need to be thanked here.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2020-06. Discussion. Go ahead, sir.
All right, well, let's start with all the authorities' staff. Just about every one of them had to get involved in this, and they did an absolute great job. The 2 gentlemen and their organizations that I've already complimented, but also I want to point out that I arranged a meeting with our staff and the folks that do the bonds with Sarasota County, their Office of Financial Management, and their utility department And I want to thank all those people. Some of them are here, several of them are here. And it just went seamlessly. And they might have had a commissioner who was just hair on fire that it needed to get done before the interest rates dramatically changed. I'm not going to name the names, but that rascal, his limited hair was surely on fire. So thank you for that.
Any other comments? No, it's just fantastic. It's a great effort by everyone, and it's
Absolutely.
really appreciated. Okay, we got a motion, a second, to approve Resolution 2020-06. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Again, thank you, everyone. Well, Commissioners, I believe, Mr. Lehman, we are at the end of that part, and we are now going to recess our regular Board of Directors meeting and convene our workshop. Do we need a little bit of a break, Terry?
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so.
We'll take Commissioners, we'll take a 10-minute recess and come back at whatever it is, 10:40. We are in recess. Okay, Commissioners, we're going to now convene. Is my mic hot? There we go. We're going to convene the Board of Directors workshop of September 30th, 2020. Mr. Lehman, will you get us going here?
Yes. I'd like to turn the microphone over to Ms. Holcomb, who's going to lead you through a review of our strategic plan. It's time for it to be refreshed, and she will go through a lot of the accomplishments, and then we'll ask the board, how do you see it into the future?
Very good. Morning.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, members of the board. Good morning, Terry Holcomb with Authority staff. I'm honored and appreciative of being able to help facilitate today's workshop on strategic planning. It's your recommendations today and feedback that we receive that will help guide the authority into the next chapter of securing a reliable, sustainable, and environmentally protective regional water supply for the future. I'd like to go over the agenda. We can there we go. Today's agenda is really broken down into 3 key focus areas. The first area is really just a review of the history and purpose of the authority's strategic plan. We're going to highlight our vision statement, our mission statement, and our 6 core values. Then we'll go into the second focus area. We're going to assess where we are today. We're going to recognize our accomplishments since our 2017 strategic planning process, as well as identify those key initiatives that have helped drive our progress today. Now, these first 2 focus areas are really just mainly to inform the board, get everybody on the same page where we've been and where we are today. The third area is really where we're going to spend a lot of our time today, going over recommendations for new initiatives to replace the ones that we've already accomplished, as well as identify the next steps moving forward in the strategic planning process. So just a little bit of history with respect to the authority's strategic plan. In 2008, your predecessors, and it's a quiz time, right? Who can remember what the board members consisted of in 2008? I'm going to start with Mr. Chairman. Do you know who the Charlotte County Commissioner was in 2008?
Well, was it Adam Cummings?
No, sir.
No, it wasn't him.
It was Commissioner Dick Loftus.
Dick Loftus.
The Sarasota County Commissioner at the time?
I think it was Shannon Staub.
You are correct. It was Commissioner Staub.
So I was correct and the chairman was wrong.
Wrong again, right?
You are correct. How about for DeSoto County?
Commissioner Jerry Hill.
Commissioner Jerry Hill, ding, ding, ding.
Well, they're doing good.
Yeah.
I have no clue.
Okay, I'll stand over here. So Manatee County was Commissioner Jane Van Hamen. So if we can all remember back then, 2008, we were in a growth period, right? The authority was just completing a design of the REP, the expansion, and going into the construction phase. So they embarked on the development of that first the strategic plan. and it was comprised mainly of 6 core values. So in 2014, the plan was updated again. This was after the completion of the REP. We had the new reservoir online, we had the new water treatment plant online. So they went back and they revisited the strategic plan. And the vision statement and the mission statements were developed under that 2014 plan, as well as taking those 6 core values and bringing them forward. So now you had a strategic plan with a vision, a mission, and the core values of the organization. In 2017, it was tweaked just a little bit with respect to some wordsmithing on the vision statement and the mission statement. Core values remain the same. But what really came out of the 2017 strategic plan was a collaboration and coordination effort between authority staff and your member staffs to develop an implementation plan, right? You can have a strategic plan, you can have words, but without action items, they're just words. So the implementation plan really focused on goals and objectives along with initiatives to move that plan forward. So there were 4 key areas that were identified as goals: water advocacy, financial stability, regionalization, diversification, and where are we missing? Collaboration and coordination. It's under this one here. So we'll be looking at those later. So there's a little bit of a history. We're here today to go back and review that implementation plan and all of those initiatives that have been accomplished to date and identify new initiatives to replace those. So a vision statement. We always get confused, right? What's the difference between a vision statement, a mission statement, values? A vision statement looks into the future, right? Who do we want to be? What do we want to look like in the future? The authority's vision statement is through cooperation and collaboration, the authority and its members shall create, maintain, and expand a sustainable, interconnected regional water supply system. The mission. So the mission is what we do today to make that vision possible, right? So the mission statement is to provide the region with a sufficient, high-quality, safe drinking water supply that is reliable, sustainable, and protective of our natural resources now and into the future. Those 6 core values. So the core values, coupled with our mission statement, is what our beliefs are. It's what our purpose is, and it's what guides us to our vision. So the 6 core values that were originally identified in 2008 and carried over to 2014 and have stayed consistent are cooperation, and I am not going to read these, you can just follow along: cooperation, collaboration, regionalization, diversification, financial stability, and water advocacy. Now, when we look at our core values, there's not a hierarchy here. There's not any core value that's more important than another one. So when we look at the initiatives that we've accomplished under each of those core values, they are all equally important to driving that strategic plan. So we're going to move now into that second focus area. We're going to look at assessing what we've done to date, where we are, what initiatives have we accomplished since the 2017 development of that implementation plan. Now, the regionalization and diversification goals were very similar, and so staff grouped those 2 goals together with respect to developing those initiatives. So the goal for regionalization is the long-term aim of the authority is to forge a system that is environmentally sensitive and sustainable, highly interconnected, diversified, and affordable. And with diversification, the authority will work with its members and water providers in the region to further diversify supplies, integrate additional water supplies into the authority's regional system, and protect and enhance water-dependent natural resources. Now, there were 8 initiatives that were identified in 2017. 4 of those have been completed, and the other 4 are still moving forward into our 2020 update. We're not getting rid of them, we're moving them because they're ongoing yet. We haven't completed them. Those 4 items were formalizing an emergency operations protocol. We developed a comprehensive 5-year CIP, as well as a comprehensive 20-year CIP, or what we consider to be the CNA, the Capital Needs Assessment, and coordinate regional program plan with the Water Management District. All of those objectives were completed. So let's look at our financial stability goals. The goal of the financial stability item is the authority will maintain financial policies to assure its financial stability while providing affordable water rates that are fair and equitable. There were 10 initiatives identified for financial stability, 5 of which were completed halfway. Did a great job. Those other 5 are still ongoing. There's 1 out of the 5 that we're going to make a recommendation to remove off those initiatives, and we'll get to that when we go through the next focus area. So we have 5 that have been completed. Formulated a strategy for future debt service coverage, reviewed and optimized reserve fund targets, prepared again a 5-year CIP and a 20-year CNA. Those were both in both of those goal initiatives for the regionalization as well as financial. And we established a CIP reserve fund for non-R&R CIP authority projects. Again, with respect to cooperation and collaboration, at the time, the staffs felt that those 2 goals were very similar in their objective, and so they combined them when they looked at initiatives to meet those goals. So for cooperation, maintaining a strong spirit of cooperation and addressing regional water supply needs through the leadership of the authority and its member governments. And then collaboration goal, the authority will seek to develop a significant, constructive role for all local governments in regional water supply planning and management. There were 8 initiatives that were originally identified, 4 of which have been completed, and 4 of which are still ongoing. The 4 that have been completed is working with local governments to identify projects of a regional nature that can be implemented using existing infrastructure between authority member customers and partners. Develop a region-wide program plan to optimize water quality consistency of current and future sources of supply through the regional system. Develop a One Water initiative in conjunction with Regional Water Supply Plan, or that's the Water Management District's Regional Water Supply Plan. And update the Regional Water Supply Master Plan every 5 years or at a greater frequency if conditions warrant. So those have been completed. Now, some of the items in the initiatives we feel are important, not just to have done that one time, but they should be recurring, such as the completion of the Integrated Regional Water Supply Plan. That's something we should do every 5 years. It doesn't necessarily need to be stated as an initiative every year, but it's a recurring initiative. Very similar to the development of the CIP and the CNA. Those were things that were identified in 2017, but since then we recognize we need to do those annually. That's something that should just be a reoccurring initiative every year. So we'll have a group of these initiatives that we'll consider reoccurring, and we want to kind of put those down on a list so we know that they will be in, we've done them, but they're going to remain in our strategic plan moving forward. And then the last core value here is water advocacy. So the goal of the authority is to be a leader for water advocacy through participation in legislative water policy and environmental stewardship for water source, water supply, and resource protection. There were 6 initiatives for water advocacy that were identified, 3 of which have been completed. Those are shown here. We coordinate a list of water infrastructure needs to support legislative funding. Mr. Lehman has many times made the trip up to Tallahassee with all of the regional projects in his pocket to talk to our legislators about. Promote the value of water to the public and business community to build understanding and support. That is one of those, it's always ongoing, right? We are always inviting people out to our facilities. We are speaking at industry conventions. So that is something that's always ongoing, and we will continue to promote that in our strategic plan moving forward. And then, of course, host outreach initiatives, including the annual barbecue at the Peace River facility, and attend the water forum to engage local and state officials in water issues. Again, another ongoing effort. So this takes us out of now we've noticed, or we've discussed our initiatives that we've accomplished, and we're now going to move into the primary consideration for this morning. We're going to recommend some additional initiatives to add to that implementation plan and take feedback from the board, get some direction if we need to add additional initiatives, if there's something that you see that we'd like to tweak. I'm going to ask my colleague, Mr. Anderson, if you would help as we discuss. We can kind of track some of the changes, additions, comments, capture them here so we can include them into the strategic plan moving forward. So I'd mentioned that there's several items, several initiatives that are reoccurring, things that we should just do out of good management practices. We have a list of these recommended recurring initiatives that we would like to include in the plan moving forward and remain in there on a recurring basis. The first one is update the authority's 5-year CIP and 20-year CNA annually and implement. The second one is to update the authority's integrated regional water supply plan in collaboration with the Water Management District's water supply plan on a 5-year basis. The third one is to update the authority's water quality master plan on a 5-year basis. And the fourth one is update the authority's renewal and replacement, or R&R sufficiency report on a 5-year basis. There's 2 new initiatives that staff recommended, and that would be to annually review grant funding opportunities for projects, including coordination with the Water Management District cooperative funding initiatives, and to maintain an annual update of the rate model to forecast cost impacts on a 20-year rate projection. I think your staff became familiar with that this year. So there's 4 initiatives that have been carried over from the previous 2017 plan, and there's a recommendation to add 2 more recurring initiatives. So I would ask the board if you have any recommendations, suggestions to any of these.
Commissioner Mayo, go ahead.
Yeah, just because, we get hit with a lot of this, and maybe I'm the only one that needs the babysitting. But when we're looking at this, the one that is up there now, was up there, it would help me on the top 4 if in parentheses after it, it said something like by 2025.
So these are recurring.
Every 5 years, so you're going to do them annually?
Or every 5 years. They're recurring on some type of a consistent basis. So the CNA CIP is annual. The master plan update is every 5 years. The water quality master plan is every 5 years. The cooperative funding is every year. These are things that just, some of them are annual, some of them are 5 years.
There's 4 of us here. So, again, I may be the one that needs the babysitting, but even on the ones that are 5-year plans that we review annually, just somewhere in the wording, reviewed annually.
Reviewed annually.
But just so it's in our minds. And because honestly, and again, maybe it's just me, I might say, oh, we just did that. We just had the workshop, so that's done, and we'll review it again in 5 years, which is, you just pointed out, not the case. So it just a thought. The other 3 aren't saying anything, so it might be a very bad thought. So.
No, I think it's anything like that clarifies. I mean, we hit each individual board at our counties. We'll have these types of workshops, and it's always interesting how much of the information has to be reviewed again. If we had it 6 months before, I'll forget 50% of it, so, and it's getting worse every year. So basically, I think anything along those lines that helps the board members understand when you're expecting us to look at it again.
Okay.
Some year. I think that's what we're trying to communicate.
Yes.
That would help us. That way we can maybe ahead of time start looking back and refreshing our memory.
Should we add a recurring initiative to revisit the strategic plan on some frequency basis?
Interesting.
I think there's enough, Mr. Chairman, if I
Go ahead.
may. I think there's enough time during the year at our board meetings that doing just that for an hour is a wonderful thing.
Sure.
I would
Just
agree.
a little checkup in between.
Well, good.
All right, so
Ms. Grace?
for recurring initiatives, we will actually put clarifiers on there as to how often or if it's a date specific.
Something like that, yeah. Sounds good. But the overall list looks good. I mean,
Perfect.
Okay, great. So then we will move on to regionalization and diversification. There's 4 staff recommended initiatives to add. This first initiative was actually in the previous strategic plan, and it was accomplished, but we feel as though it needs to stay in there and have a date moved out because we've got some facilities that are coming online. So this first initiative, establish an operational protocol for interoperability of the interconnected regional water facilities to optimize flexibility and rotational supply by 2021. The previous strategic plan had 2017, I believe. And there are some facilities out there, I'm going to use Punta Gorda's new facility as an example, that we have now interconnected into the system. And we would like to have, a protocol for operating that system. We envision maybe with the DeSoto, the Project Prairie pump station, that might be coming online. So having an operational protocol established, we think would be a good initiative by 2021 to address those facilities that get rolled into or connected to the regional system. The second recommendation is to evaluate and continue participation in incentive programs with Florida Power and Light to optimize power costs and increase sustainability goals in 2021. We had a presentation to the board, I believe Mr. Anderson did, on the FPL Solar Together program. We feel that that program is important to reaching our sustainability goals, and think that by putting it in the strategic plan, it makes us evaluate where we are in those savings and sustainability goals on an annual basis. The third recommended initiative is to continue feasibility design and construction for the new reservoir and expanded water treatment capacity for completion by 2030. We just embarked on, expansion of the reservoir system, and we feel that by including this initiative in the strategic plan, it sets that date and that timeline to continue to drive that program and meet our regionalization goals. And then the fourth initiative is to interconnect all existing major supply facilities to the regional transmission system by 2030. Now, this initiative is really a combination of 2 previous initiatives where we had it broken down into interconnect all existing and interconnect all new major supply facilities. So we combined those 2 into one and just considered it existing because when a new one comes online, it's existing. So we tweaked the words a little bit here, and we added the date extension out to 2030 for completion. It kind of coincides with the completion of the Peace River facility expansion. So those are the 4 recommended initiatives to move forward into the 2020 plan. And we'll take any suggestions, edits, tweaks, additions.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Again, this is just a simple one, but on that third one, I'm just very impressed with what staff has done to get us this far in a very short time on the third reservoir. But if perhaps we just continue feasibility, design and construction of a new reservoir, and in parentheses, that PR3, so that it just, everybody begins to refer to it that way. It's glaring, it's in our face, this is our third reservoir. I just would ask for that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I kind of, on the same one, but kind of differently, I kind of hate to say completion by 2030, and what I mean is, to my knowledge, you're supposed to ask for extra water, give them 7 years. To my knowledge, no one has actually asked for any additional capacity. I would just hate to see the authority gets, once you state that you're doing it by 2030, to get in there, have to pay for this if you don't actually need it till 2040. When is, you got to make sure that your need actually matches, what you're doing here also. I don't have a problem with saying all of that. I just don't like an end date, because then someone's going to say, well, you should, you said you were going to do this reservoir. I don't know, we still right now are fine. I know, at least in Manatee County, we kept thinking we were going to need water in 2010, then it was 2017. I think it's 2035 right now. So it just seems to me it might tie us down to having to do something.
Not a bad thought. My only concern is I have consistently said to folks that with our new 50-year SWIFMUT permit, that we've timed things in a sequential manner, and that people who get alarmed that we're going to run out of water, or if big users come into the area, or just our normal growth rate in most of the counties, that there will be an absolute ample supply. I've also gone on the record dozens of times saying, as it stands now, we've got a reliable quality supply for 20 years, and with the addition of the 50-year permit and the third reservoir, that will take us to safety for 50 years. So I personally hate to see that date slide, but I just know if it's memorialized, then I don't want future boards, when we're no longer here, say, well, that was always sort of a target, that we really never really intended to do it by 2030, when we absolutely have intended, and our RFP said that. The meetings are just hurtling forward to get us there. So just my thoughts.
Right, and the date, it does back up our CIP documents that we have out there. It backs up our CNA, our 20-year forecast documents. But what we'll do is we will discuss the date certain. We're going to bring this back, obviously, to your staff, so there will be more discussion on all these initiatives. And
does that capture what?
Add PR3 and review for dates on this item as well.
I definitely, because it takes forever, definitely the permitting, the designing, the looking at it, I would just, until you actually pull the trigger, I think you need to say, yes, we're with it, we're in that 7 to 10 year need, which 2030, that's only 10 years out, and I don't know that we're there at that need today. I'm just saying, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, regionally, I think we identified a need for the region, not one customer. The water supply master plan.
I still know that no one has actually is saying that we need water in 7 years today, to date. That's all I'm saying.
We're all watching the growth rates very carefully and the exodus from the Northeast. Commissioner Langford, did you have something? I understand what you're saying, Commissioner. I just think, again, with all the documentation so far, and everything we've done so far, we've had that as a goal, 2030. So
I have no problem with staff working it out, though, either. I'm just bringing it up, that's all.
Yeah, I understand. And there'll be just tons of different details that are going to happen over this next 10 years. And that date might slide just because of other things.
It's kind of a double-edged sword when you put a date in something, because it forces you to recognize and have it done by then.
Yeah.
But then you also, if things slide,
I love goals. I love that target, and I think and again, like I said, right now, we don't know what kind of this whole crisis, COVID crisis, is creating changes in our population in this state that we don't quite understand yet. I mean, we're seeing that. Talk to your real estate folks in your towns, right? I mean, inventories are way down. The builders are going like crazy down in Charlotte. I mean, it's just a lot going on. So, you know, that's another thing we got to watch is our growth projections and what we've got for allocations. You know, we don't know. Right now, we're good. But, you know, in a year or so, we may need to revisit some of these things. And we might find that 2030 is very realistic, that we need it. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I had to ask our county administrator because I couldn't believe it. I don't follow it daily, but we are at the highest number of single-family and multifamily and inspections and permits since the crazy year of '06. Right. And this year, we have blown past all of 2019. And if you, it's mind-boggling when you understand what we've been all going through, but it's indicative. I know in my own family, people desperately wanting to get out of the northern cities, and they want to come down here. So how can we have that many more building permits this year than last year, and it's almost an all-time for the last 15 years record? It's because the people are coming.
Right. So I think the 23rd, again, we'll kick it around, but I think that's reasonable at this point. The first bullet, I guess, the first item on interconnected regional water facilities. How much, and you brought up Punta Gorda's new facility, Terry.
Yes.
How much of an effort would that be how many of them are we talking about? How many facilities would we be needing to look at? I mean, Punta Gorda.
Potentially the Project Prairie.
Project Prairie.
We have 2 pipelines that are under feasibility studies right now that may connect existing facilities out there, maybe through Charlotte with the 2B, 2C line. Right. Maybe the university pump station through the Phase 3C line.
All I'm saying there may be a little footnote as to maybe what we're talking about with those words. You know, what facility, you brought up Punta Gorda as an example.
Right, as an example.
As an example. So
okay,
so the board members, because you'll have a couple of new board members.
So this is add clarification to initiative number 1 on example.
Such as?
Yeah, example facilities.
Just add examples.
Yeah, add examples.
Whatever ones you know right now would be good.
Sure.
Everything else all right, Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Okay. Moving on to financial stability. And contrary to what my husband might tell you, this is not my area of expertise. First initiative, develop regional transmission system connection fee for allocation of authority hydraulic capacity entitlement in existing pipelines. Number 2, develop methodology to implement combining debt service cost of new authority water supply sources with existing debt service cost. Review and revise essential job skills, functions, and experience needed to perform job assignments in coordination with agency staffing or pay and class studies. Maintain a competitive benefit and compensation package to ensure successful recruitment and retention of qualified employees. And this is the one item we were going to remove from the current 2017 initiatives, and that's evaluation of a 2-year budgeting to support rate stability. I think discussions with staff during some of our professional staff meetings, that kind of has come off the table. So earlier we said we had met 5 out of the 10 financial initiatives. 4 are coming forward, 1 we're asking to remove, and we're going to add 4 new ones.
Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, again, at the risk of being the problem child, when I look at these, and I'm being silly here, I just imagine that an accountant married an engineer, and these are their children, because, I mean, I got to tell you, let's just take the third one. Somebody said we always have to be careful that our rates of pay for our staff, we don't lose people to other firms or organizations. somehow, I think we could say that more concisely. You know, and I don't know, I'm not going to wordsmith it here, but I think that's, and maybe it's a question. I believe that's what you're trying to say there.
Yes, you're talking about the third initiative there, to review, revise essential job skills.
And I think that number 3 and number 4, and I'm putting the numbers there, the third check mark and the fourth check mark, for me, they can be combined.
Into
Yeah.
maybe a simpler statement that just
Yeah.
says we're going to stay competitive in the market.
They're very simple, something I would write, okay?
Fewer words, yes.
Something simple. We'll work on that. I'm going to look at Ms. Lee to help with that verbiage.
I agree.
And I was not, or maybe I was, referring to Ms. Lee when I said an accountant sat down with an engineer. Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe.
All set?
Okay, moving on. These are our cooperation and coordination. We have 2 recommendations to add. We're going to develop a region-wide program plan to optimize water quality consistency of current and future sources of supply through the regional system by 2021. This one has a date on here. This is a carryover from the 2017 initiatives. We checked it off as completed because through the process of completing our water quality master plan, we did look at water quality consistency throughout the region and interconnections there. And we have that as a reoccurring item to look at every 5 years. However, regulations don't always occur every 5 years. We have regulations that sometimes pop up with respect to water quality, and I'll give an example of the lead and copper rule that is expected to be released in the next year that will have implications for the authority and our member governments. And we want to be able to look at those or come up with a program to address certain regulations as they affect the authority and our members when they come out, not just every 5 years. So we're including this in the recommendations to move forward in the 2020 plan with a date for 2021. It's the same thing for the second initiative. We had this in the 2017 plan, but we want to move it forward into the 2020. This is to identify and seek to improve existing infrastructure that could be used cooperatively among authority customers and partners to increase available water for delivery and exchange and maintain connection in a readiness to serve mode. This kind of goes part and parcel with development of those emergency interconnect protocols. That was completed, but we have facilities that are in our, what we call our off-WIP permit, or our operational flexibility water use permit. And we would like to be able to identify a readiness to serve. So if we need to wheel water through the system, we have a plan in place that will easily allow operations, whether from the authority side or our customer side, to know exactly how to wheel that water around. So we've carried this over from the 2017 and feel that it's still valid in the 2020. Did that make sense? And was that correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it seems reasonable.
So those are the 2 recommendations that we have.
Okay.
Good?
We need something here.
Don't have any. And then the last objectives here for water advocacy. The first one is to develop leadership and succession plans for key positions. We have something in the industry that we say we're an aging industry. We're losing people through attrition. So we would like to develop a leadership and succession plan for some of our key positions so we can keep those skills and knowledge maintained within the authority as we move forward. No old jokes. The second initiative is to participate in the annual county legislative delegation meetings to support regional water supply projects. We have been doing that as staff. We've been going to your county delegation meetings. We would like to put this into the 2020 plan as a recommendation.
Sorry, Commissioner Ferris, you
No, well, when she finishes.
She's all set, okay.
And then the last initiative there is to continue engagement in the Florida Water and Climate Alliance. The authority is a member of the Florida Water and Climate Alliance, and Mr. Morris is actually a member of their steering committee. I would like to read the Alliance's mission statement, and then you'll see why we're recommending for inclusion here. Their mission is to foster partnerships to co-develop and share actionable climate science, data, and decision support that promotes sustainability in the water sector through applied research, learning, and outreach. And we feel that that mission statement really supports the goals of the authority's sustainability initiative and will help keep us active and engaged in that dialogue with the sustainability requirements. So we would ask to have that moved into the 2020 plan. So I'll take any comments, recommendations.
I think this is the place to talk about it. I'd love to see us do some youth outreach. I haven't ever heard anything the time that I have been here. I've always worked really hard with the FFA to 4-H. You could do speech contests. I think the kids should maybe have some field trips out there. You know, people just think they turn the water on and that's where the water. I think I've always been, you need to start educating the kids young when they're learning and understand this background. I'm not sure the exact way to do it. You could do something simple and just do some speech contests. So people have to actually, kids have to actually go and, you know, research where water actually comes from, how it's done, how you could do it. I know you could do that through the 4-H and the FFA, but I would love to see us increase our youth.
I
think that it would. I think they would be interested in it also.
Sounds good.
I feel very passionately about that. There are several people within the organization, and I know within our member governments as well, that participate in the Florida Section American Water Works Association have the Model Water Tower competition. I don't know if you're familiar with it, where we reach out to the local elementary, middle, and high schools and have water tower building competitions. There's several staff members, and I know several of the people in the audience here that do participate through either professional or personal organizations for advocating water resources, water supply, and environmental protection. So I think adding that is a great idea to our advocacy efforts. We'll figure out a initiative to encapsulate all of that.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Just one thing I think we could make additional use out of. Pat always has the chairman do an editorial that's in our local papers. Yes. I just read this chairman's one the other day, 2 days ago, and it's excellent, but it's chock full of information that I suspect many of us don't even think about. Certainly our employees don't think about it because it's what you do day in and day out. But the average citizen, and what do we have if we total up both counties, well over 1 million people, they don't know this.
Right.
So I think maybe add one more a year, Pat, more work, but add one more a year, and maybe it's in how we come up with the water rates. Maybe it's from our accounting folks. Maybe it's a story
you
about.
Want people to read this?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean, no, I know. I'm always on Ann's side as a fellow accountant, all right? It's us against the engineers. And God, there's a lot of engineers out there, aren't there? I just think that's important because there are still people that, why do you even charge for water? It's free. You pull it out of the river. So just an additional one a year. It's almost like our public information piece. Just a thought.
You could just let them know what their electric bill is, and they'll realize it's not really free.
I tell them all the time when I sign that check.
Great. Okay, so we have add more editorials, so increase messaging to the public.
That's perfect.
We'll come up with we'll work with staff to work on an initiative there. Yeah, I know we always have something in the papers during April for Water Conservation Month, as well as many of the member governments do as well. But maybe increasing those editorials.
And I'll make note for the record that Pat is not smiling in my direction.
I'm an engineer.
Okay, so that kind of takes us through those key initiatives, identifying some recommendations. Moving on to the next step. What we're going to do is we're going to take these recommendations, we're going to update a draft of the strategic plan, and primarily that implementation plan section with new initiatives. We're going to provide a copy and discuss at our professional staff meeting. And then we're going to bring that back to the board for your review at the December 2nd meeting. So with that, I'll take any questions if you have any further questions, but I'd really just like to say thank you. I appreciate the dialogue and the interaction and the opportunity to work on the strategic plan for those of us that are going to be here for quite a while.
Well, thank you very much. Any comments, questions?
I would just add that, once again, our staff, and they spoke through you. You go home and tell your husband, regardless of what you said he might say, that staff and you did just a tremendous job today in presenting this.
Okay, so it was a heavy lift by everybody working on their respective areas. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Well, I guess at this point, we have completed the workshop, Pat?
Yes.
All set? So we will adjourn the workshop and reconvene the Board of Directors' regular meeting. Okay, we're at General Counsel's report. Mr. Manson.
Well, I've had an exciting month going through the financial bond documents this month. It's obviously not an area of specialty for me, but boy, do I have more respect for Mr. Giblin and his folks at his firm that do that. But it's been exciting to see them move so quickly to get that done. But I don't have anything new to report other than, as you said earlier, they did a wonderful job, both the outside consultants and the staff, at getting it done very quickly.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Executive Director's report. Mr. Lehman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just have one item to bring before you, and just want to make you aware the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies, which is an organization made up of the largest utilities in the country, which stand including from Boston to LA, from Minneapolis down to New Orleans, and we're included. They are based in Washington, D.C., and they are truly the advocate for the large utilities and the federal water policy issue with Congress and with EPA and regulatory issues. AMWA provides a utility recognition program for management and workforce performance, and they have a series of 3 awards that go from good, better, best. They have the Gold Award for Exceptional Utility Performance, which recognizes water utilities that exhibit high level of performance in product quality, customer satisfaction, employees and leadership development. The authority received that award in 2014 from the national organization. Their second tier is the Platinum Award for Exceptional Utility Performance, and the criteria based on 10 attributes of effective utility management, which was developed through the EPA. And they recognize the utilities that have implemented all these attributes and are at a high level of management. And they awarded that award to this authority in 2017. Their highest award is Sustainable Utility Water Management Award, that recognizes utilities that have a commitment to sustainable management, and sustainable being not just water resources, but infrastructure issues, the financial stability, energy, and all the other challenges that face us. The winners must have achieved a balance of innovation and success in these areas, and these awards are all peer-reviewed on a national basis. And I'm proud to sit there and announce that AMWA will be presenting the award for Sustainable Water Utility Management at, unfortunately, virtual conference, October 13th. So, as a congratulations to the management staff, Mr. Coates, Mr. Anderson, Ms. Lee, Ms. Holcomb, Mr. Morris. I've challenged them to take the Stanley Cup lap around the room and hold it up. But this is kudos to your management staff that they are receiving on a national basis a peer-reviewed award. So you're in good hands. Thank you to them.
Excellent.
That's all I have.
Okay, very good. Commissioners, we have the routine status reports. Any comments or questions there? Again, we talked a little bit about FP&L, looking at that check register every month. It's always an interesting, those are interesting numbers. So anything we can do as time goes on to bring those numbers down would be great, obviously. I did make a trip out to the plant here a few weeks ago and saw the filter covers project, and it's quite impressive. It's quite a job, and got the chance to see the new maintenance facility and warehouse. It's a really nice addition to our campus out there. It really turned out nice. Now, my chairman's report. First item, annual review of the executive director. Well, we filled out our evaluation forms, and Mr. Lehman again received very good scores, excellent scores. I appreciate all his work, his leadership of the team, and it's my recommendation, Commissioners, that we amend his employment agreement and increase his annual salary by 4% effective October 1st, 2020. I need a motion to that effect.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
A motion is second to approve Mr. Lehman's employment agreement amendment, increasing his annual salary by 4%. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Again, thank you very much, sir.
Thank
for all
you.
you've done. Commissioner Trace is about to leave us.
Yes, I
This is
am.
your last meeting. And as we normally do, we have something for you. And we also, Commissioners, have a resolution, which is in your packet, basically resolving today that the Peace River Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority expresses appreciation to Commissioner Trace for outstanding contribution as a member of the authority board of directors. Her contributions towards development of a reliable, sustainable, and affordable regional water supply system, and her leadership on behalf of the citizens of the four-county region. It has been a pleasure working with you on this board.
Great
and we're gonna
pleasure
really
working
miss
with
you.
all of y'all. I'll miss y'all too.
And we
Thank
have
you.
a little other, but I need a motion to approve Resolution 2020-07.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
A motion is second to approve Resolution 2020-07. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Hearing none, passes unanimously. Well, congratulations, and again, we're going to miss you.
No, it's just, I was just telling the guys earlier this morning, it's one of my favorite boards, and it's a great one to work on. It's a great staff, and I will miss y'all. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Well, with her departure, Commissioners, we need to elect a vice chairman. I'm going to turn that over to our attorney. He's going
Thank you.
to quarterback this.
All right. So as discussed by the chair, the governing documents require that we have two officers, a chair and a vice chair. And so we would need to do an election for the vice chair. So for those elections, I am the one that opens them. So the election is now open for nominations.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
at this time, I would like to make a nomination for vice chair for Commissioner Mayo. And just remind you that carries a 15% increase in your pay that we get here, so it'll be.
Good. And I'll get the engineers to help me, 15% of zero. Good.
Yeah, yep. So,
I support that.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll vote on Al Mayo, Commissioner Al Mayo as the vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations, Commissioner Mayo, you're the vice
Thank you,
chair.
everybody.
Very good. Okay, board comments. Commissioner Trace, anything additional?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Mayo?
Absolutely great meeting today.
Commissioner Langford?
Yes, sir, just thank staff and everybody for a wonderful meeting, a great meeting, very informative, and just want to just let Commissioner Trace know that we have enjoyed you and enjoyed your company and getting to know you from sitting on this board, and we're gonna miss you, but we're not that far away, so we can can still stay in contact or whatever. But anyway, thank you for everything, and we're sorry that you're going to be leaving the board, but we wish you the best and everything that's coming for you down the line.
Thank you.
I echo that. There's been commissioners that have come and visit these meetings on a regular basis, even when they don't sit here. And I did that for a number of years. So I would really love to see you continue, if your time allows, to come back and just come in and visit with us.
Maybe the barbecue one.
Well, the barbecue's good.
There you go.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Okay, public comments. We have any additional cards, Rachel? No, sir. No additional cards. Well, Commissioners, our next meeting is Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020. Mr. Zarzano, only one time at the beginning.
It's not what it says here.
Mr.
Time was permitted.
Let me just ask the attorney. I'm not totally
No,
sure.
the idea is that you get to request once, you get one 3-minute presentation under the comments section.
That's not
The
what it
issue.
says. It says objective, inadequate
Mr.
time.
Zarzano, please, you're out of order, sir, please.
You're out of order.
The issue is if you didn't have time, in other words, if someone didn't make it in the beginning of the meeting, they can then speak at the end of the meeting if they came in after the beginning.
That's exactly, just for the clarification of the public, just so I can clarify all that, we have at the beginning a 15-minute allocation for agenda items and non-agenda items. The priority being agenda items that we're going to vote on, Mr. Manson, I believe, right? If we use up that 15 minutes and we still have people, or need to go over because it's things we're going to vote on, we can go beyond that 15 minutes. The non-voting topics, and today we didn't have anything that was related to voting items. It was all non-voting discussion or comments. Because we don't have any more on that end, we're done, correct?
That's correct.
We're done. No, very good.
We have driven from Charlotte County.
Mr.
There are 3 private citizens here, and sir,
Close the meeting.
no.
Anyways, Commissioners, this meeting is adjourned.
Not be